Hi everyone, James at Jaeger Precision here. Welcome back to a new video, and in today's one we're talking about the new HPA MWS lowers from Air Tac. So here they are. There's been a long awaited release of these. They do it in two variants. They do one, which is like an M4 variant, takes an EPM1 or whatever magazine you want to put in there. They also do the 9, or the HYP-9, hyp-ar 9, whatever they call it, which takes an Evo mag, which also retains the, the bolt locking back when the magazine's empty. So that's the one I went for. These are CNC machined lowers, which basically replace the lower on your MWS, double eagle MWS, whatever you're fitting it to. And what it basically does is you can put your air source on here and you basically put a normal mid-cap style magazine in here and it will still work like a gas blowback, still have the bolt retaining function, but having more than 30 rounds in a magazine. So very, very cool. I'm very excited to try this out. With this also came another bag, which I'm not sure if this is something that they just sent to me or whether this is something they sent to everyone else, but I've got a spare HPA sort of adapter, if you want to call that here. So everything that you need to replace it out, maybe if there's an issue. So we've got one of those. We've also got a bag here. So spare HPA unit, ghetto blaster pins. So maybe there's parts they give for most things. Ghetto blaster pins, 2.5 by 16 mil. Not really sure. We've got a couple of grub screws, a couple of bolt stops. Line removal tool, that's always good. Buffer retention pin. Buffer retention pin. Yeah, we've got a bunch of bits here. I'm not really sure what they all do. Hopefully they're all spares. Double eagle trigger box shims. Again, what would be nice is having some kind of printout. You know, it doesn't really cost much. We've got a bunch of magazine catches, which they all look pretty much the same here. Got spare feed lips, which is something Air Tac's always done. Spare bolt stops. So yeah, we're a little bit in the dark as to what's going on here. They say these are shims, but I really don't know. Are they needed? Are they not needed? What would be nice is maybe like a QR code to a video where they explain this stuff. I just think it's becoming the norm where, you know, products like this can come out and you're just completely left in the dark with it, like what you're meant to do. The other thing I'd say, just a nitpick of mine, if you're spending, I think these are like what, £330. If you're spending £330 on something, just getting it in a plastic bag like this just seems a little bit cheap. It wouldn't be expensive, you know, to have this just in like a nice cardboard box or something, because these things aren't cheap for what they are. So what we're going to do, however, all my little nitpicks aside, we're going to get the top-down camera going. We're going to take a look at this a little bit more in detail, and then we're going to fit it to that lupus and see how we get on. Right, so here we are. Here is the lower. Comes with a grip fitted, which is routed for the airline. The airline is very neatly tucked into the receiver here. It's very nicely done. Still using 3D printed parts for the grip. The mag release. One thing I will say about the mag release is if you look at the state of that spring, like, it looks a hell of a mess in there. Let's see if I can lock the, like, it's all like the springs all bunched up. Maybe that's meant to be how they are. Phillips, everything like that. Valve knocker, all 3D printed. It comes with body pins, which do have the tier 1 precision. Like, that's slightly annoying that pin the logo's like not straight. So I think there's just a bit of attention to detail. I think they could improve on this. The pins are really, really stiff to get out. The back one was especially. Right, so as far as I'm aware, we can drop a trigger pack in here. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the lusus, or whatever I want to try to call it then, and we're basically going to be creating a Jackal 9. So PSA actually do a Jackal that is the 9, which basically comes with a Evo magazine, which is when I saw this, I was like, oh, that's exactly what we're going to do. I would much prefer it to fit it to a lupus that has a short barrel. I might get another lupus in black with a short barrel to fit onto this, but the lowers can be swapped over. So in the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't matter. Right, let's get cracking then. So obviously with the lupus, it's very simple. We can pop the body pins out on the lower receiver. There we go. And we need to figure out how this all comes apart. So first we're going to take off the stock to make our lives easier, which is a 4mm Allen key. Strip some weight of this so we're not moving the whole gun around while we're doing it. So we also have a 4mm Allen key inside. Am I going to be able to do that? I think we need a proper Allen key. So it actually looks shredded, that screw, which is going to be annoying if that's the case. We can actually get the rest out, can't we, I think, before we have to bother with this. So we can push the fire selector out. We can take the mag release out as well. Like that. Let's move this down just in case I take you out of frame here. So fire selector's out, mag release is out. We've got a screw in the back here, which is a 2.5. So we can pull that out. We've also got a body pin, which we can tap out as well. Now we should be able to extract the trigger pack. The double eagle trigger packs come out incredibly easy compared to a Marui. And there it is. So we've just got this thing to worry about. It's so tight in there, and I think the screw looks a bit like rounded off, which is annoying. But so do we have to shim this out? And if we do, I take it, do we have to see if, God, I can't pick this Z plate up. Do we have to see where it sits on the receiver maybe? So let's pop this in here, see what happens. I mean, that looks like it lines up pretty damn well. So let's see if that is the case. Am I trying to screw that into nothing? Okay, so there is no threaded hole for the trigger box screw. As you see that there, there's just no hole for it, which is a strange choice. But we can tap that in. That goes in incredibly easy. And we put the selector in. There we go. So the body pin's in, the fire selector's in. You'll see the fire selector can go past So they haven't added any hard stops on here like what's on a normal receiver. That is a bit of an oversight because you can rotate the fire selector past where it needs to be, which just looks really rubbish. That looks horrendous. Again, you're spending almost the value of the gun on just the lower. I'd expect that to be a little bit better, but it's in. This is where we find out whether it's going to work with the Lupus. Now I need to get this off so we can have a stock piece on there. So let me do that and then I'll be back on camera. So I'm so used to saying, oh, well, I'm gonna have to go sort this out, because usually in my home office and studio, it was a bit more difficult having to go to and from a garage that's got all the big tools, and now I've brought everything down to my new office. So I've just remembered I've got some wrenches, so we can take that apart. So another pro of having the new space and having everything in the same area. So you will need to use something like this to get your Lupus stock piece out. It's just with Allen keys, like all my Allen keys are drivers now. I don't tend to keep like normal Allen keys because I don't really generally use them. And then it comes to a point like this and you're like, oh yeah, I really need them. Right, so interesting. So the Lupus has a little cap, which hopefully means this should work. So we should be able to put this on the end. Yes, we can. What we'll do first, let's thread this in from the back because it's going to be easier. Now with a normal buffer tube, you would use this to retain the buffer. Obviously on the Lupus, we don't really need it, but we're just going to keep it there anyway, unless it gets in the way. So we can put this stock piece back on. We can back that out to where it needs to be. And then we can reattach. This is a unique stock part that's on these Lupuses. It's not on a normal double eagle. So you would just unscrew your buffer tube and screw this on and screw it onto your new receiver in its place. I will need to check, which I think has happened. We need to unscrew that a little bit because basically it's not going to let the stock part bottom out. So we're just going to tighten this down. There we go. Till it grabs. We don't want to go too tight with it because we might want to get it off. Looks like it's slightly over to one side, so let's loosen it off. So we've got a bit of movement on this thing. Let's try and force it to that side so it's nice in the centre. And like I say, if you fit in a buffer tube, it'll just be a case of undoing your castle nut, pulling the buffer tube off, putting it on its place. So for all intended purposes now, we don't need a mag release. We don't need the screw at the back, which I think is a big mistake because this trigger pack can move around. I think it seems to be working. So let's get this thing on and see if it will line up with the Lupus, because it might not. I'd like to think it would. Front pin, we're in. Rear section, we are in. Oh, look at that. How it's almost like this receiver was made for the Lupus. It really does look like a HYP-9 receiver if you've ever seen one.
Hey, that's pretty good.
So let's get an airline before we put any rounds in it. This is just going to be set to, I think, roughly 100, because I was going to let someone use my Gate PTX. We were going to go down to Blackstone. Well, they went to Blackstone Saturday just gone, because this is the Monday. Unfortunately, I was ill and didn't go. But by the sounds of it, I dodged a bullet, because I don't think it was all that great, their experience when they were there. So with, you know, HPA lowers with this kind of thing, always want to cock it first. We've got no air leaks. Let's try it. Here we go. One thing I will say, which we've shot, you know, HPA lowers before, I can already tell you straight off the bat that compared to that Novrich SSQ4 is more consistent on the auto. We might want a bit more PSI because it does sound like it's running out. So green gas normally runs at 120. So we're going to put it up to 120 to start. But so far that's been a drop-in install. It did worry me when I saw all the spare parts that were in the bag. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some rounds. I'm going to get a magazine as well. Let me grab an Evo magazine. And we'll quickly chrono this thing on a 2.5 and see what it's doing. So what we'll do, I'll come back on camera in front of it and we can talk a little bit better while we test this thing. So back in just a jiffy. Just going to put the light on my catch box so I can see what's happening. We are set to a 0.25 gram BB. I have an Evo mag with some 0.25s in. We're set to 120 PSI. This is the long barrel Lupus, so it's going to be doing a little bit more juice than the short one, but we can try it with the short one actually. So here we go. I didn't cock it, did I? So that might be why. Here we go. Yeah, on the long Lupus, doing about 1.5 joules. It's fairly consistent. Let's try the auto, see if it feeds. Perfection.
It was perfect. Perfect.
I can't fault it. So the bolt stop's actuated. It's still showing me around in the feed lips. So can we fire an extra one after bolt stop? Yes, we can. So the bolt stop will initiate on an Evo mag. However, I do like the fact that they've got rid of that BB retention system, because I hate it. It's one of my biggest things that I hate about the MTWs at the minute is this BB retentions. Everyone's so obsessed with holding 2 extra BBs in a feed tube to not waste them. It's a massive, massive safety hazard. But we fed all the rounds. We locked back when it was empty, even though there was one shown in the feed lip. So if you're at a push, you could always just drop the bolt and get an extra one out of it. I can manually, you know, operate the bolt as well. It was high on the power, but we know this gun's high on the power anyway. But what we can do is we can get my 8.5 out, because like I say, I'd got this geared up to go to Blackstone. So I've got my upper here, and they are split because they're in the case. So there we go. Oh yeah, so it's made a bit of a munch up of that pin that sits at the back. So I think what's happened, let me get this bloody pin out. I think what's happened is you've got this retention piece at the back here, which is massively chewed up. But that is just a byproduct of me fitting it onto a non-standard MWS sort of lower setup. So there is a pin in there. So what I would say is if you're fitting it to a loopus, just remove that system because the loopus doesn't need it. So with the loopus, when you're closing the receiver, that rear receiver lug isn't pushing that down out the way. So basically what's happened is that bolt has just been slamming straight into the back of that 3D printed piece. So for what we're using it for, it doesn't matter. Just be aware that's what's going to happen if you put it on one of these guns. But let's get it fitted to the 8.5. We never know, it might match this this tan one quite nicely. Now that is strange. So although it fitted onto the other one, it won't fit onto this one. Why is that? There's nothing stopping it as far as I can see. Oh, just needs a bit of just tight. Oh, yeah, it really doesn't want to go in on that one. So we've now got it fitted to the 8.5, which is a much better barrel length for this. We're going to whack some rounds in and chrono it. Now this gun was set to a dual on 2.5s on green gas. So we'll be able to see how much of a change we've got on this system. So we whack mag in, load one in, and here we go. 0.744, 0.795, 0.743, 0.668. So compared to running this gun on green gas at 120 psi, as I drop my suppressor on the floor, we are lower compared to running it on a gas mag. So we are 0.3 of a joule lower than what we need to be. Let's put some hop on that because we're losing one out the barrel. Bit better, 0.8 joules. Let's whack it on auto. As you can tell from the chaos with the BBs on the floor, this thing runs pretty damn well. It's going to be a full-time job me cleaning this floor. So yeah, first impressions of this kit, it was pretty much a drop-in. I think if you're fitting this to a normal M4, you're probably going to have a little bit of an easier time just because it's more geared up for that. They make it for an MWS M4 platform. This is a bit quirky because the lupus is a little bit different. But I think it's now a costly endeavor for me because I don't want to tarnish my my tan 8.5 lupus. I kind of want a gun to build this lower on that's purpose built for it. And unfortunately, having these pins are so incredibly tight. Having a second lupus is a great problem to have. However, it's just a bit too long. I think if you're building it on the HYP-9 lower, it kind of makes sense for it to be on a short platform because it's an SMG basically. So I have made changes to this gun, which I will go over in a future video. Let me find my suppressor. I dropped on the floor. But I just wanted to do an overview of this kit, and I'm probably waffling because I'm super ill at the moment and I'm losing my train of thought. But the kit works pretty damn good. The power is lower compared to green gas. That could be just to do with the expansion rate of propane-based gases and HPA. Obviously, using propane-based gases, they're stored in liquid format where HPA isn't. And as you're using it, as you're expelling that gas out the magazine, it's still expanding into a gas. So there's probably a bit more science to it than that. I'm probably butchering it, but it would just be a case of you turning your regulator up, or what I would suggest is I would probably leave it at about 120 PSI if I can and the gun runs good, and then I would just adjust the impasse because that's got an impasse fitted to it. So it's not technically a low power issue because of the lower, but there will be a difference between gas and HPA. So this we can put back onto here just for now. It would be nice to take a look at their other version of this kit, which takes an M4 mag. But if you're a gas user like me, you're probably going to like the fact that it locks back on empty and gives you a little bit more than just running a 250 round mag, which I suppose would be nice if you're doing outdoors. But let's get this stock put back on here. What I will say is, in terms of power and full auto consistency, ow, try and get this stock back on, pinch my fingers. The only thing I've really got to closely compare it with at the moment is the SSQ4, or what I've been calling it as the Sasquatch 4, which has caught on. A few people have been calling that now. The Sasquatch 4 from Novritsch, that thing is crazy inconsistent. Now, I've seen the usual YouTubers who cover Novritsch's stuff sing its praises, and in their videos, the guns are performing flawlessly. However, I have seen a lot online of people that have been so disappointed with their SSQ4s, they've sent them back. And there's people that have been having a lot of problems like I have, where the power is that inconsistent. The major issue I had with that system was when I was firing it full auto, the power between each round as it fires was so inconsistent that as the rounds are coming out the barrel, they're contacting each other. So you'll get one that comes out at slower velocity and then one that comes out behind it at higher velocity, and it just hits that BB and it just puts your spread all over the place. It has got a little bit better since I've just been putting rounds after rounds through it, but it's still super inconsistent. And you can tell when you go through the chrono and you're firing it and you set it up at a joule, and it's like a joule, 0.9, 0.8, 1 joule, 0.9, 1 joule, 0.8. So it's a bit all over the place. And my point is, the first impressions of this kit, even though I do have some issues with it, consistency-wise seems a lot better. And it looks fantastic on this DWS. The profile, I really do like the styling that they've gone for. They've made it futuristic, but with, within a parameter where it doesn't look too daft. And it also looks very much like the Jackal 9 lower that comes on the real PSA Jackal 9. So I need to get a short upper for this and build this out properly into a Jackal 9. In terms of the kit and how easy it was to install, extremely easy. Things that I don't like the fact that we lose that screw retention on the back. I think that area should be threaded so you can screw in your trigger pack. I don't like the fact that the trigger pack can move around. It's only a slight amount, but it still gives me the heebie-jeebies. The other big pair I've got with this is the fire selector. The space for the fire selector. The fire selector goes past where it's meant to line up, And that is super annoying. On a lower, which is like 330 quid, that's a massive oversight. And what they should have done is just put stops on the receiver like a normal receiver. You could just enlarge, this would be very easy for them to do. So if they're doing batch 2s and stuff like that, obviously if you've bought one, it's not going to fix the problem for you, but they need to increase the geometry on these stops on the receiver so that doesn't go past it, because it looks horrific. And if you're a GBB user like I am, things like that will super annoy you for no reason whatsoever, but it works. It's just, look, you can see there, I can flip it past. So I've already done the top down, but I flicked it past where it can go. Obviously it stops unsafe, but I can go past it. I can actually flick it all the way around. That is a massive oversight. And it's not something really that can be easily fixed. You'd have to remachine the lower or supply a bespoke selector which the geometry is improved so it always stops on this. That would be the thing that I would do if I was them. I would supply it with a selector that hits these stops properly, but there we go. I'm thoroughly impressed with it. I just think they're 90-95% there from where they need to be. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up now, because again, I'm still super ill and I'm probably just repeating myself over and over. So big apologies from me, but I want to get some videos out, and there's no telling how long this sickness is going to go on for. It's just all in my throat and in my head. So the HYP-9 lower from Air Tac seems to perform really well. It was pretty easy to put together, pretty easy to understand, even though there's absolutely no instructions on how to do this thing. If they were all that easy to do, I don't understand why you would have to ship your receivers to them in the first place, unless they were using customer guns for tolerance testing maybe. But it seems to work great. Again, the only thing that really annoys me is that selector. It needs to be fixed, because it is, especially when you're paying this amount of money, that is a massive oversight. So consistency seems to be good, power's good. The bolt stop on the 9 works incredibly well. If you do want to, you can get an extra round out of it, because there'll be one sat in the feed lips, but you pull the mag out, it doesn't retain the BBs. I really like that. I know this is daft things to say, but they have to be said these days. And the styling's good. It comes with the body pins. All you really need is a trigger pack for this thing, because it comes with a grip as well. And to be honest with you, this grip ain't half bad. Knowing me, I'm probably going to swap it out to something else. But the grip is actually incredibly comfortable for what it is. It was actually one of the things that surprised me. But there we have it. The HYP-9 Air Tac HPA conversion kit. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. Again, thank you for joining me for another video. More to come. There's actually pretty much a massive box of stuff over there that I've got in, that's just in the queue to be reviewed. But again, I'm going to wait till I'm feeling a little bit better to sort of play through that, because there's a lot of work to do. We've got the AK-105 from VFC, which I still haven't reviewed, even though I've had it for like a month now. So we'll get to it eventually. Thanks for sticking around. Let me know what your thoughts down in the comments below about this HPA kit from Air Tac. Have you picked one up? Have you got this one? Have you got the M4 one? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, from me and the new bench, we'll be seeing you in the next one.